Maybe.
Well, Addie's French, so yes.
I can hear you. Okay, I guess I'll do it. Anyway, hey everybody, welcome to the Geek Bomb book club today. We're talking about The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue, written by V.E. Schwab. Now, this book is about a lady that is growing up in the 1700s, right? And she's not digging her scene, so she makes a wish, and this guy Luke was like, hey, I could hook you up. And, hilarity ensues. So now we're on the second half. He made a wish as well, but his wish is a little bit different.
Okay, I'm back. I gotcha.
Get it?
Yeah. And I turned you off in the middle of it accidentally. I didn't mean to. Accidentally. But Jimmy, you stepped up. Really appreciate that. Everyone can be heard, says Stormshanks. Yay. You know what it is? I'll tell you. Sometimes in my settings, for no good reason, because I haven't messed with them at all, it will have absolutely no input for a microphone. And what you ended up hearing was me changing speakers from headphones and blocking out the headphones. So there you go. STS just said Maude's distracted by her sweet award noms. Look, 3 of them. So that is a cheers to me. But also it's very distracting being this nominable. Oh, guys, I'm in a mood. This will be interesting. Hold on, let me have a sip of wine. We have a Sauvignon Blanc this evening. Good soup. One person will get that. As Jimmy said, we are covering The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue. This is a woman who, I believe in the 1600s, in the 17th century, to avoid an arranged marriage, decided to make a deal with the devil, a Faustian bargain, where she, under the pretenses of, I want no restrictions, I want absolute freedom, and I want more time to live my life in return for my soul, he says, done. And as a consequence, anyone who ever meets her, as soon as they are, not in the same sort of, clever girl gifted a sub to 70, that's the sweetest thing. Clever girl. Thank you for that. That's really lovely. Really.
She's my granddaughter. I have to.
How long were you sitting on that one for, Colleen?
A long time. I've been trying to get her into the book club for a long time.
7th, have you read the book? Your grandma's way more tech savvy at this particular stage than you are, which is unheard of. So MVP to Colleen right now. 7th, are you going to unmute? I'd love to hear from you. Have you read the book? Did you like it? Also, is this the world's first granddaughter pairing in book club ever? Surely. Oh, you're writing in the comments. She says, yeah, of course. Love that. Yeah, right? I'm absolutely chuffed right now. I think that's so cool. I wish I had kids a lot earlier so that my granddaughter would join me. Fine, cool. Thank you so much for the follow. Really appreciate that one right there. It's also, Colleen, it's your birthday? Happy birthday. It's Trisha Hirschberger's birthday as well. And Tom Hardy's birthday. There's a bunch of birthdays today, but I'm so glad that you are joining me. Really quickly, Colleen, how was your birthday? How was it? What'd you get up to for your birthday?
Well, I went to the chiropractor this morning.
I'm going tomorrow.
I'm going to a concert this weekend.
What are you seeing?
So that's when I'll celebrate.
Okay. Chiropractors for the birthday. Well, the chat is just lit up by wishing you a happy birthday. Jedi Master Jace Windu has subscribed for their 11th month. That is redonk. How is that even possible, Jedi Master Jace Windu? Love a good book chat with Maude Squad. Nice pre-40th birthday gift. Jace, when's your birthday? Is everyone having birthday? Man, January's a frisky month. There's a lot of September birthdays. Terry says happy birthday. Avery says happy birthday. Gory says happy day of birth. Stormshank says happy birthday, clever girl. Jace Windu's birthday's tomorrow. You're turning the big 40, the naughty 40 as we call it in Australia. Lisa's wishing you a happy birthday. Oh, it's all happening. Strawberry Brie has muted us, so cannot hear us at the moment. Strawberry Brie, is that because you are watching via Twitch? If so, comment in the chat so that I can say a big hello to you, because you are a new book clubber that we have in the show at the moment, and I love to do like a getting to know you couple of questions. But if you have just come in and have muted and also deafened, then this is going to be an awkward first book club for you. There she is. Okay, great. Hi, Brie. I saw that you signed up for an entire year, so I'm really looking forward to hearing what kind of books you're into. Strawberry Brie, where'd you get your name? What kind of genre of books do you like to read? What's been like one of your favorites semi-lately? What's gotten your 5-star reviews on Goodreads? I'd love to hear from you. If you do want to undeafen and unmute and chat so that we can all hear you, that would be amazing. But if that's a little bit too much too soon, that is also totally understandable. We only want to do what is in everyone's comfort levels, which is why when I asked someone to do the introduction, it was Jimmy that jumped and there was crickets everywhere else. Alrighty, those in the book chat and the book club with Geek Bomb, they're on Discord at the moment. We're all on a call, so we can all chat that away. I've also sent them a Google Doc, and on that Google Doc, we have a bunch of questions that we'll hope to get through over the next 2 hours. But because this is part 2, we do ratings in part 2. And if you do want to learn a little bit more about the book, part 1 is your jam. But because it is part 2, we'll kick it off. We'll go from bottom to top this time. And when I say that, that's just alphabetical names in the Discord chat so that I can see who's muting and unmuting, which means, Thierry, we're starting with you. You've already said this in our Discord chat. Out of 5, you gave it 7.
Not me.
Thierry, yes, you did. I didn't. Oh, that was J Bunt Rock? No, I thought it was you. I thought you said you loved it.
I did love it, but I didn't put my rating. But it's a 5 out of 5.
It's a 5? What did you love about it? I mean, the fact that you bought it for your mum.
Yeah.
Oh, it was Nick. It was Black Belt. It was Black Belt that gave it 7 out of 5. Amazing.
Yeah, I loved everything about it. Even though I like last week, I predicted that Henry made a wish and that Luke's going to use that wish to mess with Addie to make her give up her life.
Black Belt gave it, the reason why he gave it 7 out of 5, because he gave it 7 out of 5 freckles. That's great.
It was a blast. I can't wait to talk about it with my mom.
Is there, being French Canadian, is there sort of something in the language that speaks to you a little bit more than it would say this Aussie gal?
Well, for my mom, yes, because she only reads book by French authors.
Wow.
So,
that's right. You go to the French company. I like that you and your mum can connect over a book as well, and that, you know, you're in a place where you can send her a book.
Since we connected on a book.
Yeah. What does she usually read apart from French authors?
She read every Anne of Green Gables.
Wow, that is a blast.
Canadian, so that's a bypass because it's an English writer, but it's a Canadian writer, so it fits in her genre. But yeah, she's reading a lot of Musso right now. She's all about Musso, which is a French author. I'm gonna say it right this time.
All right.
Yeah, she's more into not really a romance novel, but more like a coming of age of mid 20, early 20s woman.
Love that. And that is definitely this because she lives centuries. So loving that. And it also just reminds me of the time that my mum went through a vampire erotica phase. So everyone has their type. Thank you, Thierry. 5 out of 5 over there. Strawberry Brie, if you're there, a big hello to you. Do you want to unmute and say hi? Do you want to unmute and say hi? Nope, typing. One moment, please. STS says, who grows out of their vampire erotic phase? And Gory says, not me. That's amazing. All right. I can't see anything just yet. So, Seventh T, if you're there, do you want to unmute and tell me what you thought Addie LaRue deserves out of 5? Oh, we lost you, Brie. We got you, Brie? We got you, Brie?
Yeah, I think so.
There it is. Hi. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Welcome to Geek Bomb Book Chat. When did you read The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue? I'm going to throw a couple of questions your way, sorry. But when did you read the book?
Honestly, it was about 4 months ago.
Is that why you joined book club, to be able to talk about it with people?
Yeah, I also joined because of Radio Roads.
How do you two know each other?
Oh, kind of a friend of a friend. We kind of got introduced, and then we started hanging out.
Loving that. What are some of the books that you've read recently that you've really dug?
Project Hail Mary by Andy Ware.
We were supposed to do that this month. It was between both of those books. We were going to do that or Invisible Life of Addie LaRue, and this one by one vote. It was on the list, Chris. Yeah, so I think we're actually going to do it in November. So if you've got it, good. Oh, no, you have. Cool. You read it. Yeah. So good. Yeah. We're already set for 2 months' time. Nice. Lovely. What else are you into?
Book-wise, I'll read about anything. I mean, I'm part of a Facebook group, and they are always making different suggestions. I'll read horror and science fiction and fantasy and just about anything. But I really loved that last book, the Project Hail Mary.
Alrighty, well, I'm really looking forward to November. October's book, if people don't know, we are reading book number 3 of the Dresden Files, only because in a previous iteration of Geek Bomb Book Chat, we did book club in 2019, and it was Discord only, and we read books 1 and 2 through that. Because they're super, super quick and easy reads, I recommend getting through 1 or 2. At the same time, they're his weaker books, so starting at 3 is also a really fantastic starting point as well. So we're reading, what's Thierry says, hooray! What's book number 3 called? Death Rights? What's it called again? What are we starting with?
Grave Peril.
Grave Peril. I have it in my book. I finished like the first quarter of it driving back from Palm Springs, like on my birthday. So I'll start again, but Grave Peril for that one. So that's October's book locked in. Strawberry Bee, have you read any Dresden Files?
I haven't.
Oh,
I haven't even heard of it before.
Do you listen to books or read them?
I read them.
Okay, because I was going to say, if you like the audio books, The Dresden Files is narrated by James Masters, who plays Spike in Buffy, and he is probably one of the better narrators on the planet. And it's such an experience. But I'm sure they're also great to read. B-Rock Vandal says, I'm in the middle of Dresden Files book 2 right now. Hell yeah, which means by October, you're right on track to get Grave Peril for that one. Chris says the Dresden books are 2 words that are the same number of letters, but for changes. What? You're going to have to explain that one to me. I've had a few sips of wine. Lovely to meet you, Brie. Looking forward to having you as a staple of our book chat 2 times a month. Oh, and Radia, you're amazing for expanding this as well. Big cheers to you. 7th T, if you're there, do you want to unmute and tell me what you think of The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue? Seventh T? Are you there? Colleen, you're going to have to teach her how to unmute. Oh, 7th T is typing. Got it. I do put people on the spot from time to time, but I'm also very understanding if you don't want to chat. Ain't that right, Chris? We'll get there one day, but that is not today. It is not today's thing. If that's the case, Radia, we'll move over to you. Hey, what's up? I can't hear you. I know you've unmuted, but I can't hear you. You talking into a mic? All right, have a little fiddle with the audio settings. I had to do that. I had audio issues, number one problem around here. So don't fret about that. When you get it working, just butt on in, okay? Gory, if you could help at all, that would be splendid. 70 wrote saying, yeah, I'm here, lol. I thought it started slow, but I really did like it. In part one, we really discussed how it became a little bit monotonous. Not monogamous, monotonous, where it was just kind of like repeating the same sort of thing. We were progressing through the decades a little bit slowly. There's not much to expand upon because you can't develop connections or relationships. And so, you know, I kind of like that at the same time, where it's like every single day she wakes up with the pressure to kind of get through the next 12 hours.
Is my voice working now?
Yeah, it is. Hi.
Hello.
How you been?
I'm doing pretty good. This was the second time I'd read the book, and I loved it just as much as the first time.
Did you pick up on anything new?
No, I found out how quickly I forget details. That's about it.
Preaching to the choir. Did it give you that feeling? Because I know that during COVID and during like pandemics, I've wanted to revisit properties that make me feel like it's like a nice warm hug. Did you have that feeling again, or was it a little bit more poignant for you?
A little bit. There was some nervousness because I would remember like a sad part's about to happen. I don't want to read through that, but I would make myself read it anyway.
Would you give it out of 5?
Oh, definitely 5 out of 5. It was great. I love the ending. To me, it's super happy, and I don't know. I'm very satisfied with the way it ended.
Oh, okay. I really want to unfold and unpack this ending as well. So we'll have a big chat about that. Chris described what the Dresden books are 2 words that are the same number of letters. Stormfront, 5 letters, 5 letters. Full moon, 4 letters, 4 letters. Grave peril, 5 letters, 5 letters. That actually is a really astute observation. Thank you, Chris. Michelle, over to you. Invisible Life of Addie LaRue. How did you find it out of 5?
Out of 5 from me.
Was it? Did you say 5? It just cut off at the start. How many out of 5?
Oh no, yes, 5 out of 5.
Yeah.
5. Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought it was so good. I feel like it's a book where if I read it at different points in my life, I'm going to think about, it's going to inspire different thoughts. Do you know what I mean? Like I'll get something different out of it.
Yeah, I wonder, because it's like different eras, different relationships, different, I don't know. I think for me, it'll be like the more impacting thing is trying to understand Luke and Addy's relationship, because I'm very one way about it, but I did a lot of research into it, and it turns out there's very different interpretations,
opinions.
Or feelings.
I have a note that says Luke equals Darkling for adults, ? That's my thought.
Damn. Okay, we'll get there, but we really got to unpack this sort of like, am I rooting for the villain? Because he is a villain. He's the villain. He's the villain of the book. But then it evolves and the relationship sort of takes a turn, and the longer that you spend with someone, the more respect that starts to develop in a weird way. It's almost though, it's like that we're the only 2 people in existence with this particular thing. They're trauma bonding in a way.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, we're the only 2 people that know this situation. We only have each other. So I guess that understanding is going to connect us in a very deep way. But is it positive or negative? I mean, it's got its pros and cons. We'll unpack that. But I love that you loved it. 5 stars is the best it can be. 7th T goes, I was definitely rooting for the villain. Okay. Oh, ladies, this is why we drink wine. We will get to that. Chris, in the chat, let me know. Thierry says major Stockholm syndrome. I mean, I brought that up last week, and I got not turned away from that notion, but it kind of got explored in a way so it wasn't necessarily that, but it was like a different understanding of that. Terry, it sounds like you and I have an incredibly sort of ironclad moral compass where if we've been wronged, that's it. Like, you're done. Whereas when it's over 300 years, relationships can evolve. And I think that that's what we're all kind of seeing, shades of gray, even though he's literal darkness. Jerry says, not in the first part, but the second part, definitely. Yeah, look, the unfolding of the relationship between the two just takes a freaking turn in the second part of this book. But Chris, Chris says, I still think he's lawful evil. What did you give it out of 5, though? Clever Girl says, I think he's still a little like Dream in Sandman. Radia says, I read a great thing about how Luke is darkness and Addy is the stars. Hold that thought, Radia, because I really want to hear that. Triscorn says 8.5 out of 10. That's a good result. Lisa, give me that review, please.
I gave it 5 out of 5.
Yeah.
I think I really loved the writing in this book. I've read other books by V.E. Schwab, but I think I liked her writing in this one the best.
What were the other ones?
Well, I've read the first book of the Darker Shade of Magic series a long time ago, and I never continued, but I do want to go back to that. And then I read her young adult book under Victoria Schwab. Mm-hmm. It's a duology called the Monsters of Verity series. Mm-hmm. That was really good, but it's definitely a different style of writing. So
in the timeline, was this book written after? I think this is one of her newer books, right?
Yeah, this is her newest book.
Got it. So she's really finding her groove.
Yeah.
Righty even said, I read the Darker Shades of Magic books, but I can't remember very much about them. They didn't stick as much as this one did. Even though, Righty, you confessed that it had only been, a few months since you last read it? Or a year? When was it? I've already forgotten. Gosh, you and I are exactly the same. Details don't stick. Thank you so much for that, Lise. J Bunt Rock, what'd you give it out of 5?
I gave it a 4 out of 5.
Okay, so you're kind of the minority with that scoring there. All us ladies are giving it good 5s. Thierry gave it a 5.
Yeah, well, what's funny is I really related to Henry. Before I met my wife, a lot of my relationships ended just like Henry's did.
Oh, so because you had 30 days to live?
Yeah, well, this was fun to see when I was at a point like Henry was in his life. Would I have taken a deal with Luke? Or I definitely wouldn't have taken... I definitely would have got more than a year, I think.
Well, he didn't even get it. Oh, no, he did. I thought it was like the rest of the year, right? Oh, STS just gifted a sub to Radia Rhodes. Thank you, STS. That's really lovely. Oh, that's really sweet. You know what? I do think it's really interesting sort of like focusing on what it takes, on what a rock bottom looks like, in which sort of like your soul becomes currency to exchange. I am sorry that this is something that you can relate to because it sounds like not the thing to relate to. But with that experience, how did you find reading the book?
I really enjoyed it once it sped up and got more into Henry and, there's less of a, I guess, Addie downtime, I would call it. Yeah. So once they started speeding into the story, it got really enjoyable for me.
How much of Henry's experience did you relate to?
It's mostly, not feeling good enough when the girls broke it off with him. I've been through that, so it was fun to relate, or not fun, but I could relate to him.
Jay, you're not alone. 2019 was a real tough year for this gal. I got dumped technically like 3 times in a year, somewhat back to back, and I didn't recover from it.
Yeah. I remember I've been married for over 10 years now. I met my soulmate, but I remember prior to that.
You did? You met your soulmate?
Yeah.
That's wonderful. A decade ago. Or you've been married for a decade, so it was longer than that. Really quick, SG, thank you so much for using your Prime to sub over here. I really appreciate that. Welcome. How long you been with your missus?
2009, we got married. We met in 2007.
That's really cute. Oh, is she your Addie?
Yeah, and you've met her. She's Katie. Remember, she read, I forget which book it was. Oh,
That's right.
Shadow
In
and
the
Bone.
chat.
Yeah,
In
yeah.
the chat. Yeah, she got really vocal in the after in the after show.
And I know this is the kind of book she loves, so I have handed it off to her, and she's going to start reading it tonight.
Oh, that's exciting. I love that you like kind of did it first and you're like, all right, now that I've approved it, at least it's not going to be a waste of anyone's time, because that's the last thing Henry would want. Wasting time when we don't got it. All right, 4 out of 5. That's around the same as Chris's score. Hey, Jimmy, I feel like I skipped over you accidentally. Tell me about your score on the book.
Oh, sure. The score on the book, I would say, is 5 out of 5.
Yeah.
I like the overall writing. Like the gentleman was saying before me about having, like that feeling of listlessness, if that's the correct word, listlessness.
Listlessness. Mm-hmm.
Yes, exactly. And like I was saying, it was inspiring in that way, where it was like, oh yeah, like peaks and valleys, like you always, you want something, right? But then you realize it's about wanting what you got instead of wanting what you don't have.
Yeah. Grass is always greener. That's it.
Exactly.
And I think that I've preached about this already, but 2020 more discovered or rediscovered gratitude. And it's really a fantastic exercise to see that your grass is green instead of wanting the thing that you don't have. It's really doubling down and appreciating the things that you do have. And I think that
like
that's
the game.
Aww. Yeah, I'm grateful for this book club. Absolutely. It's such a kick-ass community. You kidding me right now? Oh, and then he just does a little cat with glasses like, yeah, in the chat. Love it. Yeah, I think that is a really, really good, astute observation as well, where it's like, my life would be better if only I had this. And depending on the level of desperation, it depends on the degree of your bargain. And I think that's such a scary thought. And there is a massive level of exploitation in this, which is why I find Luke such a dangerous character. But it is, as Chris mentioned, is he just doing his job? We'll get into it. Colleen, out of 5, how'd you find The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue? STS, thank you.
Yeah, I was. I'm really torn between a 5 and a 4.5, only because it seemed a little slow at the beginning.
It did, yeah. And I think, you know what? That's really warranted, that 0.5.
Yeah, that's the only thing that would keep me from giving it a 5, because by the second half, the character development was just amazing, and there was a much better flow.
I'm about to burst into tears because Michelle has just written something in the chat comments that's just made my day. So, thank you. Ooh. Oh, Michelle says, I'm out. God damn. Ooh. I'm a Pisces, all right? I'm a Pisces. It doesn't come out often, but when it does, it's relentless. Michelle says, I write down 3 things I'm grateful for every day, and book club always makes the rounds. Well, if that's just not the cutest fucking thing that I've read today. Oh, God. Thank you. I'll cheers to that. And Grey Macchiato says, thank you so much for the gifted sub, STS. Oh, that's cute. That's really cute. All right. I'm just going to drink some more wine to suppress my emotions a little bit longer. Clever Girl, I agree with your 4.5. By the second half of the book, I feel like it made up so much for the slow pacing of the first half of the book that I relinquished it, especially since Goodreads allows only a 4 or a 5, and I just don't think I could round down to the 4. Guys, Thierry says, same, book club is the perfect pick-me-up in the middle of the week. Colleen says, this is such a supportive community. Black Belt says, book club is definitely a highlight of my week. Same. And the last one's Avery. Thank you so much for being patient. It's been like half an hour into book club and I get to hear your thoughts about The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue. What's your rating?
I gave it a 5 out of 5 as well. I loved it.
What'd you love about it?
Like everyone else saying, the writing, I just, like, it felt like how Addie kind of, like, floated through life, and it kind of felt like that. Like, I just felt like I was just floating along with Addie until, you know, she found Henry, and it became a lot more grounded. And, like, I like that the writing just reflected the way that Addie was feeling, and it just, yeah, and it was very, like, I don't know. It was just very nice, and it was, yeah, I don't know where I was going with that, but yeah.
You don't gotta. I love the fact that it was like, it made me think so much when the world building of the first half of the book was happening. I would have to often pause because I was like, what does that, what does it mean? Sorry, I've been on TikTok a lot. But one person will get that. I just found that any single time it was like, all right, I start my day or I go to see a friend or what would I do in that situation if from this particular minute people would forget me the minute that they saw me, and everyone that thank you, Gory. What does it mean? What does it mean? It's been in my head a lot lately and it's very annoying. Oh, Gory's always got my back. Good. And I kind of liked that. And I also really liked the way that Victoria would sort of like use these milestones or case-by-case scenarios, really bad things that would happen in those scenarios, and really kind of like survival and thrifty things to do. I really enjoyed that part of it. But then I thoroughly enjoyed adding I do think the first half of the book on one character who is at such a loss and is so desperate and is so disadvantaged in, you know, her every single day. It wore me down a little bit as a reader. And I think that maybe if Henry was introduced maybe like a part earlier, exploring that relationship, but at the same time, she really had to dangle the carrot of what was his wish. Why were people behaving strangely around him? Why was his behavior a little bit sort of like pedantic? The fact that he was precious with his time, like she had to really hit those milestones in a way that as soon as that had run its course, we got that next thing to keep us going. So I agree, 5 stars. My favorite parts were I think Henry as a character. He had much more of a fleshed out life. He had relationships. He had I was going to say purpose, but it's like he had people sort of like looking up to him. And that was so refreshing after the emptiness that Addie was experiencing for so long. And then you have the developing relationship or the unfolding. So we don't know, by the time Addie meets Henry, we are not aware of the depth of the relationship that she has developed with Luke. We do not know this. And the more you're invested in Henry and their relationship, the more we start learning that Luke it's a lot more than what we thought, because she kept reflecting back to the beginning when talking to Henry about it. And the beginning, the first half of the book of the relationship, is Addie defying Luke. Luke and his loophole of the agreement is her fuel. It's why she gets up. It's why she continues, because the other option is to give in to him. And that is not an option. And so this literal hell that she's put in, oh my God, a loophole. That was good. That was really good. Chris says that Luke had to give her something to care for, so he couldn't take it away for leverage. Right? Mm-hmm. Henry's parts before he meets her have some great quotes, says Radia. All the stuff about how he can't find a path in life was so well described, and such a different sadness than to Addie's. I agree, because Addie's rock bottom and Henry's rock bottom are completely different. Addie's is, you've taken my freedom from me. You have completely depicted my path ahead. It is not my choice. I do not want this life that has been decided for me. I seek freedom at whatever cost. And Henry's is, my depression has just caused me to feel so empty and so worthless that Henry is chasing worth. Out of those two, as someone that always chooses freedom, I've never felt like I have had my freedom taken away from me. So I actually related to Henry's a little bit more. In fact, it took me quite a few chapters to see the downside of Henry's agreement. And I still wasn't convinced that it was all so bad. So I want to open up that conversation to chat. Henry's perspective, Henry's deal and arrangement, how he described his depression as being this storm cloud, the rain, the storm. Even his sister's got the terminology for it. It's just another storm. I see the clouds rolling in. How did you find Henry's description of depression explained? And because we haven't really spoken about Henry's decision or what it was that he wanted. It's not revealed until much later in the book that he wanted to feel worthy. I've got a chapter in a question in the document, by the way. Where is it? Oh, Addie wishes for freedom from responsibility to other people and time to live her life. So she's made immortal and cursed to immediately be forgotten by everyone she meets and unable to leave a mark on the world. Henry wishes to live up to everybody's expectations and be enough for people. My questions that I had for this are, how do they complement the other? Is fate playing 100% into the role of their relationship? But what I kind of really want to know now is, out of those two wishes, which do you relate to and which would you have chosen? Is it freedom or is it to be enough? Who wants to go first with that?
I'll go first.
Go, Thierry.
I relate with Henry.
Yeah.
Because last year, after I finished my contract, I had trouble finding a job. And I also went into a little small depression, like having trouble finding a new contract. I felt like I was just passed over because I was just not the right fit.
Mm-hmm.
And so I wasn't enough for the job. Same with Henry, for work, school, and his relationship, he always felt that he wasn't enough. And that's what his wish was, to be enough for everything. So when he made a wish, his professor called him back, offered him a contract. He found Addie. Even if when he did something wrong, people were happy for what he was giving them because he did nothing wrong, he did nothing. It was just average. But that's the thing. On his wish, just being average, I mean, he can't. He's stuck in that position. He can never be better, better himself in certain ways. So he's just stuck to be average. So he's never like life goes into a curve. You're mediocre, average, and then you're extraordinary, and you wish to be like more extraordinary because that's how people are taught to be better, do better. You're not pushing yourself too much. You can do better than this. And when he did the wish, he was more into the other side of the average bell, where he was like mediocre. He felt mediocre all the time. So now he just got to be average. So he was stuck in that peak in the middle, never go back on either side of the bell. And last year when I was into a little depression, I would have made a deal like to be enough to get a new job.
Knowing that it would be temporary, though.
Yeah, that's the thing, though. He knew about I think expiration date on his wish was also he was suicidal. So just give me a year of happiness, being average, and then I'll complete what I did when I made the wish.
I think the fact that time is a currency in this book, as well as souls, is such an important thing, because it's like, if he's willing to end it all right then an extra day is a gift. you know? Whereas Addie's whole thing was, I want to keep living. I want to have all the life and all the choices available to me, that a year, that 6 years, that a lifetime is not enough. I don't think I would have thought in those terms if I were Addie. I think I would have chosen quality of life over quantity of life, like Henry did. I want to read out some of these comments. Michelle says, Addie's seemingly never endless rinse and repeat dating life is actually very relatable to modern and online dating times. Yes, it is. This is why I drink. Chris says, the wish would be to be enough. To be what people need. That is tempting. As for the 1 year of my life part, that is a ticking clock. Guys, we're in September. We're halfway through September. Can you imagine if you did a deal in January for the end of the year? I would have felt like I had 3 days. Like, it went so fast. STS says, I feel like, oh, thank you so much. What is happening? What is this? Oh, it's a Patreon pledge. Thank you, Samuel. If you just pledged and you want to get involved with this book chat, jump on in. We'll set you up straight into the Discord. So welcome on in. And that's effective immediately. STS, this is a really, really great discussion that I'd love to explore. I feel like depression is a debate between how bad you feel versus how little you feel. I think that that is an amazing question, because depression can either heighten feelings in a very negative way, where you feel everything and everything that you feel is bad. But there is also that numbing depression, where you don't feel joy, you don't feel sad, you are simply existing. STS, if you want to jump online, I'd love to talk about that with you. But does anyone want to weigh in on that? The different types of depression and what I feel like Henry was feeling a lot. I feel like he was really kind of in touch with his emotions and his feelings. And he just didn't want to continue to feel, because the way that he felt was so low and so minuscule and so irrelevant, that he felt like he was not enough. And that is a feeling. I just think that the different types of depression that you're talking about, just not feeling anything at all, is so, I think it's a really important discussion to have. Colleen says,
I think,
oh, hi, Radia. Yeah.
Hi. I think Henry felt the bad depression because he took drugs and alcohol just to get to neutral, like just so that he didn't feel anything. That was almost his goal usually, let alone feeling good about anything.
Yeah, he was suppressing. He was numbing. He was making sure that he wasn't feeling what he was feeling. That's a really great observation. Oh, SG just pledged. SG, you just said that you haven't read the book. We will keep you in the loop of what the books are. If you ever just want to jump in and have a conversation and a discussion, you are more than welcome to do that. SG, come on into the Discord. So lovely to have you. I get notified. You saw that little zombie running. That was people joining up to the Patreon, which is so cool. Sorry, Clever Girl was saying, I've experienced that depression where you never feel enough, but I also grew up in a time where women couldn't even have credit without their husband. Holy dooly. Colleen, I would love to hear a little bit more about that. It's not when you feel worthless, it's when society is telling you you're not enough simply because of your gender. What was that like?
Well, I remember when I was considering what career to go into, my mother saying, well, if you go into teaching, then your education isn't wasted when you get married and have children. And women were just, if you look back at some of the ads from the 50s and the early 60s, we were objects. And that was, the hippies with their bra burnings, that was trying to get some sort of, we're people too, notice us. But it took a long time for any of the laws to catch up and for us to be you know, feel like we had all the same opportunities. That women were not even considered for when they were talking about women in the space program. Initially, they were joking about them as being cargo. So, I mean, it was kind of a brutal time.
Wow.
We were supposed to be the perfect housewives. We were supposed to support our husbands. But we were supposed to be at home. You know, the pearls in the apron and the being all ready when your husband came home with a nice hot meal and to make him feel better.
I saw an ad, speaking of, you were saying, have you seen the ads from that era? It was a handbag that had a compartment for makeup and for putting on your face so that your makeup wouldn't kind of move around in the handbag, because that is the only reason why a woman would have a handbag, to have their makeup handy for touch-ups so they constantly looked perfect. Yeah. We have progressed. STS said, okay, so we've progressed from the 50s. That's good. That's only 50 years. I kind of wish that we got a little bit more of that from Addie's perspective. I mean, we saw that she wasn't safe and now she kind of like felt more safe, but we didn't really see sort of like huge movements across the 300 years. It was just like times of war and when there wasn't war. I want to go back to the comments that we've got here. Oh, Colleen, yes.
Colleen, yes. Yeah, one more thing. For those of us who grew up during that time, trying so hard to get women recognized and to have rights, and then to see them just so carelessly tossed away now, it's really painful. I think, was it Thierry who said something about Texas just now? Where they're trying to take us back to where we're just, you know, an accessory to our men.
Yeah. The Texas stuff is absolutely like 2 steps forward, 10 steps back. And it's all for the wrong reasons. It is to keep women suppressed 100% and oppressed. Yeah. I'm just so furious about that and how they're really bringing religion into it. It's a Catholicism point of view, but everyone who's making these decisions will never be in that situation and will never be able to relate to it. And they are not the people that should be making decisions for women about their bodies and putting it in legislation, you know? I'm fucking furious about it, really. Black Belt says, I definitely related to Henry in regards to never feeling like you're enough for anyone or anything. I do not blame him for taking the deal. I do want to take into account, though, if this was in a court of law and they were like, Henry, what was the situation? And he was like, I hit rock bottom. I was suicidal. I was trying to suppress all my feelings and emotions, so I drank copious amounts of alcohol. I was so disillusioned and drunk to the point that I can't even recall the night, and that's when someone decided to make a deal with me. That would be completely dismissible. That would be, inadmissible in court? That would be, you cannot make a coherent decision when you are that inebriated. And therefore, consent would not be applicable. This is why I want to be a freaking lawyer to the Lukes of the world, where it's like, you can't make someone make that sort of a deal when they're too inebriated that they don't actually understand the consequence. But I mean, he's a god, and that's why he's doing it. He's taking advantage of people that do not have any other option. And I find that deplorable. I do. I think that's really fucked. Chris says, freedom, immortality. I just want to read all the books forever. I understand that. And Black Belt says, yeah, that's the dream. Jimmy said, I would choose Addie. Because of my past, I always seek out understanding. I think that's what you said. I'm going through all the comments again. got back to Colleen's comment there. Michelle says, as someone who hates disappointing people, Henry's increased impact on people, causing them to be devastated when he rejects them no matter how gently, would ruin me. See, I didn't have that because it wasn't real to begin with. So it's not really hurting them if it wasn't really their understanding. That for me was like, I would be able to sort of absolve myself from that responsibility when there are greater powers at work. And if they didn't actually love me and it was magic or whatever, putting them in that position, yeah, I would not have time for false feelings, if that makes sense. I would just be more concerned about protecting myself. And it would kind of suck. It'd be like someone being, who ignored you every single day, that you were trying so hard to get validation from them. And then one day, like magic, they all of a sudden look at you right into your eyes, remember your name, want more from you, really kind of like you, and then get a little bit too into it all. That would kind of suck. STS says, in response to jumping on to chat about it, no audio at the moment, but for me, I often get no feelings and then try to create negative feelings just to feel something again. I'm a little too good at self-creating negative feelings. That's so interesting that to feel something, it is easier to feel a negative emotion than a positive emotion. And that absolutely checks out, especially when you look at the internet. But just the studies that if someone has a good experience at a restaurant, they'll tell 3 people. If someone has a bad experience at a restaurant, they'll tell 10. A negative experience or a negative emotion is far more impacting, and wanting to kind of like project it or to share it or to acknowledge it, which is why when reading comments, especially for women, it's like I can hear all the nicest, best things. And some of it, like, I mean, Michelle's comment, because that means a lot to me, that affects me in a really, really positive way. But sort of like, oh, you look pretty today, or actually, I'm not so dismissible for those. I'm not like, wrong. I'm like, oh, that's sweet. Oh, that's nice. Oh, that's nice. Like, that was sweet. That for me, it's like that was an effort that you made in an attempt to sort of make me feel better, and it did work. But then someone will say something minusculely negative, and it is just unraveling. I did the recent content for Nerdist. I thought it was a really funny bit, especially for people that were in Nerdist Book Club, where we would talk about June all the time, and how I said June was like, a big point of contention. And I asked all the castmates how they pronounced June, and we got 5 different versions. That's fascinating. But then for people to kind of like comment being like, what the fuck is this? You had a chance to talk to them and you brought this up, and they completely undermined that moment, which I pitched and got approved to do. But that kind of sucks. And that, took the wind out of the sails. I got up at 3 a.m., 3 mornings out of 4 mornings to do that. And it's just like, oh, cool, that wasn't worth it, because people are shitting over my contribution. So I kind of get it. I get it. Cheza. Hi, Cheza. Cheza's a new name in the chat. Make Cheza feel very welcome, please. Cheza B60. Yes, but Henry wants to affect how others feel about him, whereas Addie wants to change how she feels and what she can do. Oh, what? Henry wants to affect how others feel about him, whereas Addie wants to change how she feels and what she can do. Can someone unpack that for me? Who wants to take that on and explain it to me in layman's terms? Henry wants to affect how others feel about him. He wants them to feel better, whereas Addie wants to change how she feels and what she can do. I'm just going to agree with you. Yeah.
My guess is, now, I'm not saying this was the intention of the writer, but it seems like a lot of times when you have, you live your life and you observe things and you go, oh, I wish this were different. I wish that was different. And then, some people go to an extreme to force those beliefs onto other people,
Okay.
Be it on either side. And it really just throws a monkey wrench into everything. But that's just my opinion. You know what I mean?
I do. Thank you. Thanks for jumping up to that challenge as well and helping me with that. Avery and Michelle, I want you both to unmute. We're going to have a little chat skis. Because Avery says, I relate to Addie. I hate feeling trapped Every time something becomes normal, I start feeling restless and thinking about the next steps. And then Michelle says, I relate to Addie. There is just so much I want to do. I want to hear about this, since I relate a little bit more to Henry than I do with Addie's situation. If you were in this scenario, what's the appealing part for you, Michelle or Avery?
I just like the laundry list of things that I want to learn is like, I'm someone, if I could go to school forever, I would do it. I would be a professional student and I wouldn't do great, but I would go to every class and just try to absorb. Yeah, I would just, if I could go back to college and it wouldn't cost me my soul, that is the line, is the soul part. I would go back, absolutely. And other stuff, like I want to travel, I want to see other worlds, learn languages. I mean, there's just, the list is endless.
So Michelle, you're in the belief that one lifetime just will not cut it for your list of what you want to do.
I don't even think I could get through my to-read list in a lifetime.
That's a really good point. I've got a question for you then. How many hours do you sleep a night?
Oh, I am past the point where I can at least get 6 hours. That's got to be my minimum. I don't have it. And I really burnt out in my early 20s and I just can't do it anymore. I joined a online art convention last weekend and I did not make it all 3 days.
Yeah.
I was like, nope, I'm out. I got to tap out.
Got it. So that's super interesting that it's like something I've been doing with my friends lately is figuring out what their core values are. And I read out 150 words and they write down ones that they feel relate to them. And then by the end of our session, we have collated the top 5 core values that they've had. And by learning this, I've done it for mine. I believe mine are, what's my number 1? Hold on, I got this. Give me a sec. My core values are, all right, in no particular order, because I can't even think of them right now. Number 1 is no particular order. One of them, authenticity is my number 1. Authenticity. I don't lie. I'm completely authentic. Who I am on camera is who I am off camera. I believe in being completely and utterly genuine and honest. So that is my number 1. So people who lie to me, it causes friction. It also means that people who need sugarcoating are not necessarily wanting to be around me because I don't. But I attract people that also have a no bullshit sort of mind scope and get along. So number 1 for me is authenticity. My number 2 is like a playfulness or humor. I think that having a laugh and not taking life too seriously is super important. Another one of mine is growth mindset. And like Michelle, I always want to be learning. But for me, it's a personal development. It's making sure that I'm learning from my mistakes. I'm always challenging myself to do and be better. And I also have connection. I believe in, thanks to Brene Brown, that having deep connections and real connections with people is super important. And I think, I can't remember my last one. Innovation. I can't remember my last one. But I feel the reason why I brought it all up and was super self-indulgent in that moment, Michelle, I feel like your number 1 would be learning. If you're willing to make a deal with the devil, so learn more.
Yeah, probably.
I think that's
I have the student loans to prove I already did it.
That's the part that sucks. I think that an eagerness to learn should be rewarded and not charged, because there's so few people that prioritize wanting to learn. And it's such a challenge and such a commitment that to pay for that privilege is just so dumb, says Maude, because I'm going to change the world with that. Avery, you just want freedom and you are almost adverse to any sort of monotony. Tell me about that.
Yeah, so I mean, I relate to a lot of what Michelle said about just constantly wanting to learn new things, wanting to experience new things. But I think it's a lot about experiences for me too. Like, you know, if I like getting up, going to work, then coming home every single day is just like I don't get anything new out of that. I want to experience something new. That's why I like studying languages. That's why I like reading, and that's why I like traveling. Is because there's just so much. There's so many people that are out there to meet, so many things to learn, and I just like whenever I'm just doing the same thing every day, I don't get that, and
You're not gaining.
I like and I like having I love meeting people and learning things and having new experiences. So yeah,
I
I
was
think it's
actually going to
about
say that your number one is like Michelle's is learning, so it's information, it's knowledge, it's the original Faust. It's how the word and the term Faustian bargain came about, because he wanted knowledge. So Michelle absolutely falls into that category. Yours feels like it's experience. It's you want to try different foods, you want to see different places. It's like a part of learning, but it's if I continue to do the same thing every single day, I am not expanding, I'm not experiencing more. And I absolutely understand how having any sort of routine or a day-to-day that has been decided for you would be actual hell for you.
Yeah, that's pretty much how I feel.
And I think that during the pandemic, that would be really, really tough for you, because you get to experience new material where reading or watching new shows that you haven't experienced already. But the travel component must have been really, really hard, being stuck in a particular place.
Yeah.
Where do you want to go?
Oh my gosh, I want to go everywhere, honestly. Yeah, I've studied I've studied German a lot, and I want to learn other languages, but languages are kind of difficult, so I kind of but it's easier when you're there, so I don't know, I guess it just honestly it changes depending on my mood. I love Europe. I love old parts like a friend of mine recently moved to Edinburgh, and I'm so jealous of her.
Yeah.
I love old things and history and being able to see things, but I also love, I guess anywhere where I can connect history and learning and yeah, I don't know.
What do you do? What do you do for work?
Well, right now I just have a service industry job, but I actually recently got a library job, which I'm really excited about. I'll start that in a couple of weeks.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. So that's what I want to do is I want to be a librarian full time eventually. But
damn, that's so cool. Hey, Michelle, did you figure out what it was you wanted to do, or are you going to be in uni getting every degree?
Probably getting every degree. I mean, I love to travel too, and so maybe I could do an around the world in a million universities. So, yeah. But I would like no students to have to go through student loans in the future. As someone who has them,
wasn't it Bernie Sanders?
Fine with the future. Yes.
Oh.
I'm fine with them, if no 18-year-old has to go to the bank to get knowledge, then I'm fine with that.
Education should be a right, not a privilege. Yeah.
Yes. So I don't feel like I'm not one of those people that are like, well, I paid mine off. I'm like, that's not the point.
No, at all.
The point is to leave things better. You get education so you can leave things better behind you.
What is that movie? Dax Shepard's in it, and Luke Wilson's in it. It's like Idiocy, it's something like that. It basically depicts what the future is going to be like, and it is so scary, and it is so on point. Everyone just it's kind of like the Wall-E thing, where everyone's just watching a screen and getting more and more obese. Hold on, Idiocracy. Thank you, Pikachu, Pacabra. Yeah, it's the fact that the politics is like an episode of WWE. where it's a popularity vote and it's all about sort of like yelling, but it's an entertainment when it shouldn't be. I feel that when you do not make education a right and accessible, then that's where we're going. Already we are seeing society. What is your number? Kids, what do you want to be when you grow up? What's your goal? To be famous. Why? Doesn't matter. I didn't think about that. I have no idea. I just want to be famous, because fame in some weird and morbid way is rewarded. I fucking hate fame. I do not want to be more famous than I am. It is, you want to talk about freedom and Addie LaRue. It kind of touched upon in the book a little bit. In the 1950s, there was a famous actor who used Addie as a ruse, as smoke and mirrors, to look like they're in a relationship because he was gay and he couldn't come out. Fame is sacrificing freedom. Eminem once said in an interview when they were like, do you like fame? And he was like, fuck no. And they said, if you could do it all again and not have fame, would you choose that? And he said, yes. Now that I know what I know, I would never choose this life. So for some reason, society still has a fixation on fame. I recently caught up with a buddy, Sam Witwer, and it was super interesting to hear his point of view, where it was just like, because you're on television and because you have some sort of notoriety, people automatically assume that you don't get affected by comments in a negative way, that you don't even see the comments. But he goes, there's always this association that you have so much money and that you basically, by signing up to some sort of fame, you are getting compensated financially. That is not the case for so many people. So we are getting all the negative side of whatever notoriety we are getting without any of the compensation for it. And my God, do we not have... oh, that's Chesa. That's cute. It's Gory's mum. I forgot. I haven't seen her in a while. I forgot my train of thought, but basically the whole thing's bullshit is what I'm trying to say. Alrighty, I'm a little bit behind in the chat, so let me go through it quickly. So STS did gift a sub to Chesa, who's Gory's mum, who is a part of book club a lot of the time and reading the books. And we are giving a very, very warm welcome to Chesa in the comments, being Gory's mum. Fairness to Maude, I would think. Does Maude charge for these therapy sessions? Says STS. No, but one of my fatal flaws is that I like to teach, and Michelle likes to learn. Ooh, but it's not necessarily a positive attribute, me wanting to teach. But I do like helping people sort of with self-discovery. I think that that's a really cool thing where you're sort of like blocked and you don't know and you want to learn and you want clarity, and it's like, oh, there's some really easy steps to be able to get that, and I'm willing to listen. Should I charge? Probably. At least have some more free wine. Scrolling down in the comments, Thierry says, if I won the lottery tomorrow, I would go back to school. Colleen says, that is one of the good things about the time I grew up in. We could actually pay for our college by working our way through. Prices are prohibitive now. Ugh. But that's kind of cool that you could just pay your way through it. That's cool. Black Belt says 100% agree. Besides meeting people, lol. I wasn't to read and learn and experience everything, but real life gets in the way. Oh, I want to. I got it. I got what you're saying. Chris says it's the only way. It is only through reading can you go to Wonderland and Hogwarts and Middle Earth. It's like handheld magic. I agree. Michelle saying Faust is relatable. Hashtag. Thierry says, it took me a week to figure out what I would wish for. I would wish to be fearless. Thierry, what do you mean by that? That's a great wish. It took you a week. That's really fascinating.
Yeah, it's fear of like being rejected or not being enough, so you don't try or anything else. So be more gutsy in my life.
So
because
the solution
fear
of that
is putting me backwards in life, kind of.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And you know what fear leads to? Regret. And regret will overpower fear every time. So I watched a TikTok recently, and it was about dating. And it said the only way you can get through, you either will have a fear of rejection, and this is for work, this is putting yourself out there in any capacity. You either have a fear of rejection or you have a fear of regret. And as soon as your fear of regret can be more powerful than your fear of rejection, then the consequence and the fear of the outfall and the rejection will dissipate, because your fear of regretting not trying will be the thing you fear the most. And you and I, Thierry, if you and I can get through this, then that'll be magical, because I, at the moment, have more of a fear of rejection than I do a regret. Maybe because I'm young, younger, maybe because I feel like I can get a handle on it eventually. But at the moment, my fear of rejection. The fear of regret can be our biggest asset. I would regret not having done this, and that is worse than doing it and being told no. The fear of not doing it at all. So Thierry, that's maybe something that you and I can work on together. Taking chances. I love risk. I love risk when it comes to upping my life and taking a job overseas, packing my bags and saying goodbye to my family, moving all the time, never wanting to be complacent, never wanting to feel comfortable. I will take risks to shake that up. Putting myself out there. I mean, I kind of confessed this in a little story Q&A on Instagram. I don't even flirt anymore because of the fear of rejection from that, of putting myself out there in that way. And 2 years into this behavior, I think I could eventually regret it. But it's not my greater fear right now. Oh, we're getting heavy. Alrighty. Has anyone else discovered what their wish would be? Thierry had a wish. Did anyone else, while reading this, really think about what their wish would be? Whether it's at the cost of a soul or not, what would be the thing that you would wish for? Who's got one? Has anyone got a wish?
I said my wish last week. But if you want me to give something that's more in tune to me as opposed to the general consensus of the world, then I would say that my wish would be, what's that word? My wish would be, what's that word? I can't think of it.
Describe it.
Word.
It's when.
Yeah, it's, it's like a neutral feeling, right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
You have a neutral feeling, but you feel that you need to, I guess it's similar to, I apologize for the
That's
pausing,
right.
but I'm
That's
just trying to get the correct amount of thing. Let me just explain it the best way I can. I had an illness, right? Mm-hmm. And then while I was in illness, I was in regret, and then that regret pushed me to do stand-up comedy, mm-hmm, right? Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And so, so I guess the understanding that I'm looking for is, if I were to wish for something, it would be to love myself more.
Got it. Self-acceptance?
Because, yes, exactly. Because I always put other people in front of me just because I'm always concerned about others' well-being, because that's why I'm so good at my job. I'm a home health aide. But yeah, I would guess if it was more selfish, it would have to be self-acceptance.
Which is super interesting, because I feel like with comedy, self-acceptance isn't so much of a priority, but rejection is. You don't want your jokes to get rejected. You want them to land.
Oh, I love awkward humor. The more that someone doesn't like my joke or something like that, I'm just gonna keep telling you that joke. It's very similar to what Norm Macdonald would do. Norm Macdonald was very dry with his delivery, and some people would be like, I don't get your joke. And he would still tell those jokes. And then eventually they would land, and he'd be like, whoa, I didn't realize that this joke was so complex. It's
Cheers to Norm.
so, yeah, exactly.
What a
Cheers to
legend.
Norm.
Mm-hmm.
I agree. But yeah, that's the gist of it. That's what I would wish for.
Cheryl in the comments is saying, as you get older, rejection isn't as bad. I tend to laugh when people reject me or who I am or who my family is because it shows me that they're not part of my tribe, so I just move on. And then Shez makes a really great point. Whatever wish we are saying, Luke's going to change it. Luke's going to shit all over it. Eddie Cosmo says, hi, Maude. Hello. And there was another name that was a new name that I wanted to highlight. Nora Davix. Nora, welcome. So great to have you around here. We are getting deep and talking about this book, The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue. I'm getting there. Cosmo System says, I think I would wish to be understood by anyone. I know that people have difficulties to understand how I express myself, and it's a reminiscent problem in my day-to-day life. To be understood, I think that falls in line with being enough in a way. I feel like they're under the same sort of like vast umbrella. Strawberry says, I wish I picked a different career. Tell us more about that, Straubs. What's your career and what would you have done?
Well, I'm currently, I work in IT as a technical leader. And what I really wish I had done was went to medical school when I was younger and become a doctor.
Well, I mean, I got news for you. It is not too late. It's not too late. The ship has not sailed.
Well, when you're 40, it's kind of hard to start with that much debt again. And you kind of want to retire when you're in your 60s. Yeah.
So my mum was a nurse and she studied psychology part-time. I think she started around when I was 8. No, that can't be right. Maybe she started when I was around 3 or 4. So she did an 8-year psychology degree part-time. And I remember when she was doing her hours, she was on the phones doing the call centers, trying to finish and get her hours for the degree. And I had food poisoning and I had to come along with her and I was just hurling into a bucket while she was trying to, convince people to not hurt themselves. I guess I'm trying to use my mother as an inspiration somehow. Do you think you'd make a good doctor? Do you think that you would have the ability, the persona, the integrity to really make a difference?
I think so. I don't know if you've ever heard those Myers-Briggs personality tests.
Yeah. What are you? You're absolute opposite to me. I can tell you that right now. I
am an INFJ, which is more, you find those kinds of people as counselors, doctors, those kinds of people. Here I am in IT.
So the N and the F are not IT friendly. The J means, so I'm obviously into this shit. The I means introvert. The N is intuitive or intuition. So it's this sense of feeling over the sense of thinking. The F is again like a sense of feeling.
External feeling
instead of thinking. The N, the intuitive, is opposite to S. What's S? Sensory.
Sensing.
Yeah. But that is collecting the data and having sort of like, it's a logician's brain in a way. So it's having the evidence and putting the evidence together, whereas the other one listens to your gut. It's looking inwards instead of looking for the information that you already have outwards. Feeling. So it seems like the biggest difference between IT, which is fixing computers and numbers and inanimate objects, and medicine, which is helping people. It's the connection and the difference that you are going to make when you actually are able to talk to the people that you're helping instead of it being an inanimate object. That feels like the biggest difference in what you're craving, right?
Yes. I really enjoy working with people and talking to people and learning about all different things. And I also, in my spare time, I'm reading medical articles and I'm fascinated by it. And I'm like, what am I doing? Shouldn't I be reading about computers and like really into code? I'm like, no, I'm not.
Well, they say that on average, someone changes their career 3 to 5 times in their lifetime. So having completely had your fulfillment for a career and no longer gaining something from it is totally normal. And craving the next thing, totally normal. The problem is, Straubs, you are such, and I mean this in the best way, an overachiever in the sense where it's like you are capable of so much. You are overachieving. You have the potential. You have like extreme potential that by doing the one thing for a long time isn't hitting your capacity, isn't getting to the depth of your fulfillment because you are able to do so much. The problem is as well that medicine requires the most strenuous types of learning out there. It is the most qualified piece of work that you can be doing. So when you make that commitment, it's going to be huge and it's unfortunately really costly. But you have the ability to do that. You are capable of that. I am not capable of studying medicine. I do not have that capability. I know that. And I think the struggle for you is that you know that you are capable of it. You actually could do it and really well. Like you'd be really good at it. That's what sucks. Because the government's not going to be like, you're such an asset, you'd be able to help us. Here is the ability and here is the compensation to study this. So your way of helping people is going to come at a cost to you. Is that going to be worth it? Probably.
Yeah, I try to do it in other ways, try to find other outlets. It's hard to start over.
See, that's what I love. That's the P. So I'm ENFP. So we got the N and we got the F. We are absolutely on par with that. The E means that I'm starting this conversation and dragging you into it. The P means, so P is perspective, I think perspective, and J is judgment. And basically, it's someone who needs a schedule at the start of the day, someone that needs structure. They need to have a plan. And P means I'll figure it out. I can get in a car not knowing my destination, and I'll figure it out. So the P, for me, means that I can pivot. I can quit what I'm doing, and I can look for new opportunities. And that risk is thrilling for me. Pivot. The P stands for pivot. The J for you is your shackle. The J for you means I've made my bed and I need to lie in it. I think that's so fascinating though. Oh my God, if I was Luke, I'd be like, Straubs, I can make the student debt go away. I can make you the best doctor. I can put you in the best clinic. I can make sure that you change lives. It's just your soul. But I feel like you would earn your soul back by doing that kind of work. Oh, there's so much more I want to talk about. I don't know if I've helped you at all, Strawberry, with that, or if I've made everything like 10 times harder. But I really appreciate being able to have this conversation with you. Avery says, I've worked in the service industry for years because I love talking to people, but I'm an introvert and the type of talking to people required of the service industry is so draining for me. I absolutely understand that. Introverts talk when they want to, not when they're forced to. I get it completely. Gaia said, imagine if everyone could actually be in their dream careers. What a different world it would be. Ugh, wouldn't that be amazing? Terry says, I went from a factory worker to a VFX artist when I turned 30. I'm 40 now and everyone younger than me have more experience than me, but I love what I do. And STS says, this is why Meditation is a podcast that I would totally be down for. And Jay Hawker says, hello, Maude. I will say hello, Jay. I'm going to go back to the document and just touch upon a couple of the other questions. All right, we've got half an hour. For 15 or 20 minutes, I want to talk about Luke and this relationship because everyone's got a different opinion on this and I really want to go over it. And the last thing that I want to do, or maybe it's what I want to do right now, this is the P. I don't know where I'm going to end, but I'm starting. I want to talk about the LGBTQ relationships in this. Victoria came out as lesbian a few years ago. I think that one of the most refreshing parts about this book, when you Google The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue, it says, is it an LGBTQ book? And the answer is yes. But it's not because it's focusing or it's teaching or it's hitting the nail on the head with what it means to be LGBTQ. It is because both of our lead characters, Addie and Henry, have same-sex relationships. I'm not sure if anyone in our book club chat is or falls into LGBTQ, and I've never really talked about my sexuality, but what I really, 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 really love about how she writes about these relationships is that there is no explanation, there is no reason, it just is. And I think some of the best learning and normalization that can happen is when you don't go, we are talking about this now. This is why. This is what needs to happen. This is the spotlight on it. It just exists. Addie has been alive for so long that she finds herself attracted to Sam, a woman who is an artist, and they have this instant connection. And every single time they meet, which is as soon as one goes to bed because Addie's life renews and is deleted very, very quickly, there is this instant connection. With Henry, we realize that he's dated Robbie, a thespian, an actor in the theatre. Henry describes it as not being attracted to a gender, but being attracted to a soul. What Victoria is essentially describing is pansexualism. There's another Grey Mocha Latte just signed up to Patreon. What up? Welcome to the family. I love the fact that the word and term pansexual is never mentioned. I love the fact that Addie doesn't have this pondering thought, am I gay, am I straight? She just acts on a feeling. I love that in no way is anyone perturbed that Henry has dated both men and women. I think that a lot of the time with sexuality, there never should be labels. We have so many labels to be accommodating, but what attraction is usually label-less. You are attracted to someone just because. Regardless of their gender, what transition they are in, who they are, there is something about them specifically that you are drawn to. And that is why, for me, I find connection is in my top 5 life values. Because you can talk to someone and they remind you of someone else and you instantly feel the rapport of whatever previous person you know has catapulted them into. You're just on the same wavelength. You cannot describe the connection. It's just there. So I want to open up this conversation about how Victoria writes about same-sex relationships in this book, because I personally feel it is incredibly worth exploring because she does such a fantastic job at it. Would anyone like to join in on that part of the conversation?
So yeah, I think that the way that she did it is really nice, and because there's so much of like LGBTQ and like queer literature is focused on the struggles of these people and like
the consequence as well, the fallout, the negative, the survival of it. Yeah, exactly. And like, while that's still important, it's good to see what like different people are going through, to get that understanding. I think it's also important to show that that
everyone's just people, and it's not always bad, and we should focus on the bad of it. And I think that V.E. Schwab does a good job of that by making it such a, like, not necessarily important to the plot. It just is. It's like, it's showing that it just is. It's not all about the bad. There are beautiful things that queer people experience in their every day, and it doesn't have to be, it's not all about the struggle.
You said it so eloquently. Absolutely. And Black Belt 23 says, they were brought up so nonchalantly. More media needs to treat it like that and not a big deal, and it will become more normalized. I love the nonchalance of it all. I think that going back to a Nerdist book club book that we did, Cemetery Boys, which was exploring trans relationship and culture, Mexican culture, and sort of like family values and law. It did a really great job of one of the characters who happened to be a ghost, but this kind of like really brash high schooler guy who just took the panic and the fear of consequence away from a trans boy who was so in their head about, or in his head about, which bathroom do I use, being accepted. Like every single day was a fresh kind of fear that they were experiencing because it was based on external values, external acceptance. It was so heavily reliant on what other people deemed appropriate about them. And this character, who ended up having a crush and they ended up sort of having a relationship, was so, the way that they normalized that was just so empowering. When this trans boy is trying to go to the boys' bathroom, am I allowed to do this? Could I do it? Yeah, you're a boy, so you go to the boys' bathroom. Like in that sort of like, usually shades of gray are so important, but I love the black and whiteness of that. Don't think about it. There is nothing to think about. You are a boy, so you use the boys' bathroom. That's it. That's fact. And the ways that it broke down the stigma and normalized it. But I think the really, really powerful part of this was a very outspoken and somewhat popular guy who ended up going, yeah, I'm gay, so I don't care. I don't know why anyone else would care. That's what I am. I'm happy to accept that label. What about it? Normalizing these sorts of decisions, I think, is so important. Anyway, that's what I liked about that. That's the 10 minutes that we had. I'm going to read out some comments. Chris says she writes about it like it's normal, full of the drama of straight relationships. There is not lantern on it. Yeah, it's basically saying it's got the exact same drama as straight relationships. Yeah, you're not hanging in the light to it. Absolutely great. Jimmy says, I enjoyed Cemetery Boys as well. Lisa says, yeah, I agree. Great book. I'm glad we did it for Nerdist Book Club. Colleen says Cemetery Boys was one of my favorite books this year. I know that one of Chris's favorite books was Circe, and I'm going to make an assumption, but Chris, was that you who added in the question in the Google Doc? How does Luke compare to the gods that we read about in Circe, and how would you compare the way Addy reclaims power and the way that Circe reclaims power? These are fantastic questions, which, Chris, I'm going to push back onto you if you want to answer them in the chat as well. Oh, Colleen added those. Colleen, jump on. Let's chat about that. I made the assumption that it was Chris because Chris said that he really enjoyed reading these books back to back.
Luke kind of started out like maybe one of the gods we read about, but he seemed to have more of a sense of order and even to a certain extent, a sense of fairness. The deal is the deal.
You know what? I'm so glad you said that because it was very much, I would say that as well. The deal is done. The deal is the deal. I'm like, oh my God, this is Six of Crows.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. And it's like, there's no emotion. It's purely business. And that's why I think Chris says that Luke is lawful evil. He's just doing the job. The problem is it negatively affects people that make the deal.
Yeah. He's not as capricious as the other gods that we read about. But he still has that kind of a disconnect. He wants what he wants, and gradually develops this attraction for a human. Although he starts to tell her, "You're no longer human."
And that's a form of fucking gaslighting. You don't belong to everyone else. You're different. They won't accept you. You can't turn to them. You'll never have that life that you think you have. You can only rely and depend on me. I'm the only one who can understand what you're going through. That is gaslighting 101.
It's a great way for an abusive spouse to separate you from the pack, from all of your support group. Is you only have me. No one else will want you. No one else will accept you the way you are. But I saw as she began to gain more power, he actually began to become more human in a lot of ways.
I agree with you, Colleen, and I don't want to, but the more time that Addie spends around Luke, the more she's able to humanize him. But the more that Luke spends around Addie, the more she's convinced that she's not human. So they are actually borrowing from each other and kind of improving one another in a way.
They're finding a kind of a middle ground, I think.
But the influence is mutual.
Yes.
So that leads to the question. You go on, Colleen.
Yeah, at the end, she was, she still has her chess pieces on the table, so to speak, where she feels like, okay, he's reached a point of complacency, but she's still, kind of biding her time and waiting for her next power play.
But he loves it. He loves that she's in the game and that she's stepped up as a contender. He loves that. He's so bored and so lonely that this is something like every time she challenges him, I think that is the basis of his attraction. She defies him. She despises him. And that's like something that he's never experienced before. I fucking can relate to that. People that don't say yes to me all the time, people that stand up to themselves, for themselves, and like set a boundary with me, it's very attractive. I like that. So I understand that side of it. Chris said it perfectly. Everyone wants an equal. That's what I'm finding. You're 100% right. When someone challenges me in that particular way, I see them more as an equal than someone that, is just malleable or just says whatever they can to, I don't know, be a pacifist in a way. Sprinkles a Dragon Cat is comparing. Oh yeah, go Colleen.
I think too that it's sort of like Dream in the Sandman, where at the beginning he might have been just, he's not going to like this, but as time went on, Dream began to realize that he appreciated the company, that he hadn't realized how lonely he was. And I think to a certain extent, that's what's happening to Luke. He's, he did not ever consider the fact that he was alone, that, he was just kind of going through eternity making deals without ever even considering the need for companionship until he met her.
And what he had, technically was enough. He was going about his business. But I think that there was an allure. I mean, and Addie brings it up. Addie realizes why she's so attractive to him. And that is because everyone that he makes a deal with, it lasts a lifetime. So he will get maybe a year in the case of Henry, maybe 50 years but he doesn't have numerous lifetimes with the same person. He finds an excuse to check in on Addie every year. And then it becomes even more frequent than that. And then he gives her the means to reach out to him and to summon him in a way. So he's allowing himself to be more available to her. That's new behavior. That's something that he hasn't displayed before. And so that is him relinquishing a sense of power in a way. But their power struggle and dynamic is just, it lasts the entire book and beyond. Really quickly, Dimikado 87 has subbed for their 12th month in a row, and I want to read out their message because it's been a year. Oh snap, it's been a year. That's nuts. Happy Hispanic Heritage Month, everybody. And I think that that's a really important thing to recognize as well. A big happy Hispanic Heritage Month. Michelle says, no, my internet just went down. I've had to move to my phone. As long as we've still got you, that would be great. Chris says, and this is a quote from the book, dine with me, Luke says, as winter gives way to spring. Dance with me, he says, as a new year begins. Be with me, he says, at last, as one decade slips into the next. So this is, nothing about this is overnight. Nothing about this is rash. Nothing about this is, without its earned time. Addie's playing the long game. As soon as she realized the loophole, she's playing the long game. Luke only has time. My question for everyone is, do you like Luke? Are you rooting for Luke? Why are you rooting for Luke? How would you describe their relationship? Do you agree with Addie's decision to sacrifice and change the deal? So instead of it being on her terms that she gives up her soul, she relinquishes that right to Luke. The loophole being, you can have my soul once you're done with me, to allow Henry more time. So let's break down the relationship between Luke and Addie. What do you like about it? What don't you like about it? Obviously, it changes so much over the course of the book. It starts off very, very in Luke's power. He has all the power. He flaunts his power. And then you see some cracks in the relationship. He starts to want to be around Addie. But then when she is absolutely honoring her values and honoring her integrity, which is, no, you fucked me over. No, you don't get to be close with me. No, you don't get to have me. No, I know exactly who you are, and this is just a game to you, and you will constantly manipulate and exploit me until this is over. And he lies and says, yeah, you're right, this was a game and I was just trying to get you. This very toxic relationship. P-Dork says, hi. We had a new person as well drop in. Oh, Carlos or Beltran. It's been a long time. So great to have you back, Carlos. Good evening. Michelle says, Luke is complicated and an interesting character, but I don't like him. He's ultimately so predatory, masquerading as a patron. He's a gaslighter and a groomer. Black Belt 23 says, I don't necessarily like Luke, but I think he's an interesting character. I love the relationship between him and Addie, and I think that they definitely had some real connection, but they both ultimately have selfish desires. So it ends. What a great way to say it. Radia agrees completely, but Radia, you are on this call. So do you want to explore that sentiment a little bit more?
I don't know. I think what they said really explains it. Like, I don't hate Luke. I don't empathize with him, but if you think of him as a lonely god, it kind of makes more sense to me. Yeah, I don't know. I just think he said it really well. I don't know what to add to it.
Do you think that his loneliness justifies his behavior?
No.
I
think it explains it, but it doesn't justify it.
There it is. Do you think Addie's decision is justified at the very end?
I don't know. I like her decision. I support it.
So Chris previously said, if I'm ever going to make a deal with the devil, it would be to help someone else and not myself. So Chris, I kind of want to hear from you. Addie's decision to change the terms of the deal to get Henry out of his deal. Is that something that you can relate to? And I also want to talk about the loophole that she's kind of done one over on him, Luke, as well, the deal maker. Lisa says, I like his character, but I don't like him per se. I'm definitely Team Henry. Jimmy likes Luke. Chris says he was the darkness before she personified him, named him, and loved him. Oh, Chris, well said. Yep, give Henry a life, a real life. It was worth it. Yeah. Radia is Team Henry. I'm Team Henry. I kind of understand Addie. She's lived so long. What is that saying? You either die or you live long enough to see yourself become the villain. She's learned from Luke. She's learned manipulation, exploitation, power. So this last deal that she makes, she fully knows, Black Belt's Team Addie, she fully knows the consequence. By saying, in her terms, free Henry from his deal, and you can have me, knowing full well that he's in love with her, for as long as you want me. And he's like, done. Let's break that down. You can have me as long as you want me. It seems like he gets to indulge in her forever. Instead of her being over it and done with it and her making the decision, he gets to make that decision. So if he continues to want her, even though she's miserable, it gets to be his decision, essentially putting all the with him. Initially, I was like, what are you doing? You're giving all control to your abuser. But then we kind of get her perspective on it. And she's like, he exploited a loophole for me and made my life hell. The loophole I have for him is that he has to let me go when he doesn't want me anymore. So I'm just going to make him not want me. I'm going to make sure that I get to make his life hell. I still feel like that's a lose-lose situation for her. I cannot help but think that that's not a great deal. How does everyone else feel about the end of the book?
I would think that the end of the book was I think the term is bittersweet, because like I was saying earlier in the chat, Luke and Addy are kind of like the Joker and Harley Quinn. Because like Harley Quinn was a doctor and Joker was just like a thug,
crime lord,
and basically like Harley Quinn improved Joker just with her sheer presence, like her knowledge, her dedication, all of that. And then when Harley Quinn tries to leave Joker, he realizes the value of Harley Quinn and tries to toxic relationship mind trap her. And she's like, dude, I'm not doing this anymore. You gotta either grow with me or grow apart, and that's why I think that the ending was so bittersweet with that thing.
I hear you with that. Rydia makes a great comment. I'm confident in Addie's ability to piss Luke off. And Chris backs that up saying, yeah, she lives for spite. Michelle says, he's the worst patron a warlock can have. F's up your powers. Chat's going so fast. Presents you a bill at the end of the for use of his services. Trash. Radia says, Addie's so different than me. How can she go through so much and still be optimistic about the world? 100% agree. 100% agree. Avery says, I'm okay with the ending because of the way that Schwab built up their relationship and ended up giving Addie some power over Luke as well. Yeah. STS says, hey, this is why you don't make wishes. We got a poll at the moment. How do you feel about Luke? There's like and don't like. 69% like, 35% don't like. I voted don't like.
I'm thinking about the ending a lot more now, and I wonder if the reason I like it so much is because I was so sure it was going to be a sad ending. Like, the entire book, I was like, this is going to end very poorly.
Mm-hmm.
So when it ended at least somewhat optimistically,
Yeah.
I think that's why I was so satisfied with it.
Yep. Okay. I like that. Clever Girl makes a really great query. Do you think that this would be enough to help Henry overcome his depression? Because she's given him more time, but she's taken away herself. He kind of saw her as his freedom, as his saving grace. Can Henry actually live a fulfilled life without Addie in it? That's a great question, Colleen. Because you asked it, do you want to attempt to answer it?
I just wonder, I mean, my experience with depression is that it's always sort of waiting in the wings. And so I'm kind of wondering, it just seems to like magically disappear. And I think it's way too simplistic. I think this is something he's going to end up having to struggle with his whole life. Maybe he can find coping mechanisms like his art and, find fulfillment. But
I mean, he's found success.
If this is real depression, yeah, it's not just going to go away like that. Okay, I've got grandkids calling. I'm going to have to go.
You're all good, Colleen. I heard your phone going off. Thank you for your contributions.
Love.
Oh, she's my grandma now too, by the way. That's how that goes. She essentially has set him up by telling all of her stories and by saying, this is my life. He wrote a book. It's a #1 bestseller. So he's now kind of got purpose. #1, that's worth, right? So she's set him up. And it's her legacy that has propelled him to a better existence instead of just running a bookshop. I don't know. Avery says, I thought it was going to have a sad ending as well, so I was pleasantly surprised. Black Belt says, yeah, I was convinced that she was going to die or surrender or her soul, so this open-ended ending was a welcome surprise. Radia says there's a great fanfic where she comes back to Henry after 6 years. It's really cute. I think his storms aren't gone, but maybe they come back when he can think of things through Addie's lens, and that will help him. I like that. I think Henry will still struggle with depression, says Black Belt. I also think he learned a lot from Addie and will be able to live his life how he wants without waiting for others' approval. Michelle says, I don't necessarily think that Henry is fixed, but I think he's maybe learned the value of fighting through the storm, and that's enough, and that he is enough. Yeah. Chris says his time with her changed him. She was lifetimes in bottle that she drank journals full. Yeah, everyone thought it was just going to end really, really tragically. So this is a silver lining per se. And where was the comment? The fact that True Scorn said she left a mark. Addie got to do the one thing she wasn't able to for centuries. She left a mark. Her story was told. So I think absolutely that is massive fulfillment for her. Heavy 20, thanks so much for the follow. She got what she wanted. If she's able to get through 300 plus years just from spite, I think that having her mark out there and this book of her story doing so well will actually kind of fulfill her for a lot longer. And I agree with Avery, I think it was, or Radio, who said that you've got absolute faith that she's going to be able to make Luke's life a living hell. I think for part of me as well, it's like if you do genuinely have a connection and can care about each other and can figure it out, knowing that life is going to be permanent in that particular way, I think that's worth exploring. But that's me being a Pisces and a romantic. Akubed, thank you so much for the follow as well. We've hit the 2-hour mark. We have spent this last time talking about the second half of the book, The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue, which is a book by V.E. Schwab. We spent 2 hours talking about it last week. We do have a book for next week. It is book 3 of the Dresden Files by Jim Butcher. It is called Grave Peril. You do not have to read book 1 and 2. If you want to, they're a very easy read. What are they, like 7 hours, Thierry? About 7 hours or so?
8 each.
Yep. Super easy to get through. The dates, I'm going to announce that right now. The next time a book club will be meeting up is for Nerdist Book Club, and that's happening on the 29th of September. We are covering the first 3 books, the trilogy of Foundation by Isaac Asimov. So we are reading Foundation, Second Foundation, Second Empire, fucking something else. Ivari says, I'm in the middle of reading the Dresden Files Deadbeat right now. Whoo! Jerry says, oh, fun. Sarcastic. If you like sci-fi, Isaac Asimov is a classic sci-fi author. He's responsible for iRobot. He's done a bunch of stuff. They're a struggle. This trilogy is a bit hard. But we are doing that on the 29th of September at 5 p.m. The after show will be on the Discord at 6 p.m. But for Grave Peril, October 6th and October 13th, we'll be discussing part 1 and part 2, the first half of the book and the second half of the book. I believe Lisa did us the favor of saying that there were 29 chapters, so we can split it up, 20 chapters for part 1, 19 chapters for part 2. That'll be reading up to chapter 21 by the 6th of October, finishing the book by the 13th of October. And we still have to decide on what book we're doing for Nerdist Book Club, which will take place on the 27th of October. If you want to keep discussing books, the hashtag reading section of Geek Bomb's Discord is where you can do that. Gory keeps dropping the Nightbot link. No, we have next week off. I will be doing something next week on the 22nd of September, the week off from book club. I have been conducting How to Be a Host sessions through Bright Live. Jimmy's been involved in those, which has been fantastic. The first session was kind of like an overall explainer of what it means to be a host. Our second session, I was able to do it. I teamed up with Troy Baker, Mr. Voice of video games himself. And we talked about how to find your voice. This next session is about personal branding. Personal branding is, I have a love-hate relationship with it, but I have a very deep understanding of it. If you do want to get, Christian Bale's in here. Sup? If anyone wants to learn more about personal branding, I kind of offer personalized help with all of that, with any questions that anyone has. The sessions go for an hour. They're $20. The link is, I popped it up on a Twitter post today, so you can click the link and get into that. Usually the classes are relatively small, so you actually do get sort of a lot of one-on-one time with that. I'm even thinking about asking my branding manager whether he comes on board for the monetization one or personal branding, but we'll have like actual legitimate experience for anyone who's wanting to start life as a content creator and just has queries about it. Lisa's also helped us with the order of the Foundation trilogy, which is Foundation, Foundation and Empire, and Second Foundation. Jimmy says, I'm enjoying the Bright sessions. Yay! Gory's popped the link to get the tickets to that if you want to get in there. STS says about Troy Baker, that man can sound no wrong. You're right with that. Lisa just said, I listened to book 2 of the Dresden Files to catch up and I'm ready for Grave Peril. Hell yeah. If you haven't followed on Twitch already, I try to stream every Tuesday and Friday. Tuesdays, I will stream either, at the moment it's Boyfriend Dungeon, trying to do that with a straight face. I'm dating a vampire at the moment. It's great. And also a woman who's like having a throuple with siblings. I'm having nothing to do with the white supremacist, who I think is also a cat. Anyway, the game's bonkers. I do that every Tuesday, 1 until 3. And then on Friday, around the 2 p.m. mark, usually, we're changing that this week so that I can record not 1 but 2 different powers with Trisha Hirschberger. It's her birthday today. Drop her a line if you haven't. So I might move that earlier or later. But I play Stardew Valley with Adam Vision, and we have a very successful farm at the moment, and I got married. So it's very new into married life for me. B-Rock says, did you recommend The Stand for Nerdist Book Club? You bet I did. Yes, I heard your recommendation and I put it in my top 3 that I sent off. Gory says, Power is an awesome Patreon exclusive video series. Guy is dropping in some Adam Vision daffodils. Fantastic. STS says, you are doing good with Boyfriend Dungeon. Great. Thierry's on his 5th read of Stormfront. Was it 2018 that I put you in touch with that novel series, or was it 2019? If you're on your 5th read in 2 years. Jayhawk says, does my new hubby know that I'm also dating a vampire? No. They're different versions of Maude. That's all. STS has redeemed a Guide the Raid and says to guide it to Critical Bard, which I think's an amazing idea. Let's see what they're up to at the moment. Lisa said, I'd be down for The Stand. Yeah, it hasn't been announced yet, Lisa, and I actually have no indication of what it could be. Is Crit Bard online right now? I don't see them online. What? I usually get to host them. Critical. Have they changed their name? Critical Bard. Are they streaming right now? Oh, I don't think they're not online right now. He just went off. Oh, STS. I'm sorry. You get a free raid, Guide the Raid if you want it. Because I don't want that to go to waste. You spent 3,000 points, so let's get them happening. Thierry says, I got the book in February 2019 for Alpha Book Club, and then I read it for the first time in May. Wow. Alrighty. Michelle's still online? She was online earlier. Yeah, she's still online. Alrighty, Michelle it is. Fantastic. Michelle's been playing Phantophosia. What is it called? Phasmophobia with David Blue. So Phasmophobia is happening. Michelle's been playing since before I jumped on, so she's been on quite a while. So definitely give her the pep that she needs to continue her stream. Also, STS has done a little exclamation mark vote. I have been nominated for 3 The Game Hers Awards, which is so wonderful. The categories are Rising Leader and Streamer, which is under the Rising category. And then under the Content Creation category, I'm up for Top Streamer of the Year. If you want to vote, the name is not Geek Bomb. It's actually under Maude Garrett. So if you click that link, thegamehers.com/vote, and you go into those 3 categories, scroll down until you find Maude Garrett. That would be amazing. Essentially, this next phase from semi-finalist to finalist is kind of like a popularity contest. So the more people that vote, the more likely I am to get into it. So I would really appreciate all the help with that I can get. If you do look up all the other categories, there are amazing content creators, other women in the industry like Trisha Hirschberger, Christina Ariel, Mari, Atomic Mari. They're up for some categories as well. So make your vote count. That would be really, really wonderful if you could do that. Raddy says, I'm going to miss the Nerdist Book Club. Aww. You're going to read Foundation? If you don't have to, don't do it. Alana is nominated for a few. Yes, she's up for Best Charity Stream. She has raised hundreds of thousands of dollars for charity over the last year or so. So definitely vote for Alana. Look up Chara Lanazard for that. Yeah, Best Charity Streamer. Righty, it's your wedding anniversary on the 29th. Ew! Definitely celebrate your wedding and not Foundation. Because your wedding is the foundation of your relationship. I tried to make a pun. Anyway, I'm going to wrap things up now because we're 10 minutes over time by doing a little housekeeping. If you are going to stick on, definitely say hi to Michelle Boyd. Strawberry, Brie, it was so lovely having you. Welcome to Book Club. We'll be doing this all again next month. Really lovely to have you. Seventh T, lovely to have you too here. Your grandma is incredible. And it was her birthday today. So make sure you send her some birthday love. Colleen's so fantastic. I love her in our community. I'm going to do a raid the channel. See you all on the Discord. Say hi to Michelle. I've got someone FaceTiming me. It's a whole thing. Make sure you drop some Maude squads in Michelle's chat. See you over there. Did it work?
Yep, it worked. Good job.
Oops. Oops. All right. Thanks, chat.
Peace out. Enjoy your night. Oh yeah, I love the conversations about books. It's so enthralling.
I'm so glad my friend Bree joined. She seemed to have a really good time. We were texting back and forth during the whole conversation. Yeah, she really liked it.